Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurfaiza Binti Shari, and today I will present on a book written by Shalina Zahra Jan Muhammad entitled Love in a Headscarf. So without further ado, let's go straight away into her biographical information. Okay, Shalina is actually a London born writer, but to share an insight, her parents are actually of Indian origin. Okay, during that time, her parents were transported from India to East Africa, Kenya. It is crucial to highlight that during the British colonial period, there was a massive movement of people from one country to another country. So during the race riots in East Africa, the indigenous local African people were harassing the Indians, and they keep on saying that they are invaders and the Indians are not from their country, they are outsiders. Therefore, due to the racial prejudice and racial attacks, and ultimately the British government gave them a choice whether they wanted to settle down in Britain. And that is how her parents ended up in London, and Shalina was born there. Okay, another important point about her is she actually received her education and graduated from Oxford. Apart from writing books, she also writes articles for the British publications like the Times, the Guardian, the National, the Muslim News, and Email magazine. And just like other writings, her focus is mainly on Islam and current affairs, particularly Muslim women in the West. So it is also very special to highlight that she is the owner of an award-winning blog, Spirit 21. In her site, she explores the relationship between Muslim men, women, culture, and society. Last but not least, Love in a Headscarf. In this book, she provides a humorous take on the growing up phase of Muslim women in England, including an amusing account of the process of proposals. She wrote this book in response to the numerous works concerning dejected Muslim women, and her work crosses genres of memoir and chick lit to create a frothy but ultimately relevant work. Through her work, Jan Muhammad, she wishes to nudge Islamic culture away from the stigma that has coalesced around it, while offering insight into the daily lives of Muslim women in England. It is very special that she was actually named one of the 100 most influential women in the United Kingdom. So that is a bit about her biographical information. Let's move on to the three main issues that we could discuss from this book. Okay, before we go further into explaining the three triangular discussions in this book, I'd like to add a side note, which in this book, Shalina dedicated her writings to all Muslim women so that we could have that hope, humor, all over again in our story life. And she also said that all Muslim women deserve to have the happiness which we have been thirsting it for thousands long time ago due to this misrepresentation of Muslim women. So three issues that she highlighted in this book is actually regarding the Southeast Asian Muslim culture, and then also she highlighted on the British culture as well as Islamic teaching. So let's start with the discussion. Okay, in this book, Shalina Jan Muhammad mentioned that she is actually countering a number of forces, a number of cultures in her society in Britain among the South Asian diaspora. There are migrants who are deeply entrenched in their South Asian cultural practices, that she uses a phrase, She called these people buxom aunties. She meant that old women who have her mother's age or older women who represent South Asian culture. There is another group of people in Muslim societies who are of secular orientation, so that the group of these aunties who represent the South Asian culture practices actually do not stand for Islam. And their understanding of Islam is blended with their culture practices. And the second group, Muslims with secular orientation, they were hugely influenced by Western Orientalism and the misrepresentation of Islam and Muslim. We also have the Islamophobic hostile society, which is a society that very anti to Islam. All these three groups she is addressing in this book, and she does that successfully as regard how her representation of South Asian culture and Islamic culture. She has one of the advantages in literature, we call it as third space, which means that she is a Muslim, but she was born in Britain, and her aunties, the wider South Asian diaspora, they follow South Asian culture. But as a British-born Muslim, she can distance herself from the local culture. The host culture, which is the British culture, she described it as she looked at how South Asian and British culture can be looked from within the framework of Islam, and then she can also how the practices in South Asian cultures are Islamic and which practices in South Asian culture are not Islamic. At the same time, she also looked at how the British culture critically. She looked at both as whether it practiced the Islamic, or she assumed that this third space she assumed through this search without any cultural baggage. She can look at both cultures, both societies from a neutral point of view. So Muslim writers like the others can look at this host culture and their culture of origin from a neutral point of view. And now, as regards women's position in society, in South Asian society, or any form of colonized society, we call them that they are doubly colonized women, and this kind of societies are doubly colonized because they were colonized by the West, and they were also colonized by the patriarchy on the gender bias. So this is why she called it as double colonization. She is actually in this book reclaiming love, which she meant that when we hear the word love, we have all sorts of wrong associations. It's like romantic love, love which is associated with obscenities and military affairs and this and that. But she says at the beginning of the book that love is actually a fundamental component of Islamic teaching of. So love is not something haram love, but it is also not something like a negative love. It is actually a fundamental component of Islamic teaching. So we need to reclaim love, and we need to put love in the right place. If love is practiced the right way, then it is not haram. It is not an Islamic. But she says a Muslim woman, she has a double distress. She has a double distance. So these phrases is crucial to understand what is actually the condition of Muslim women, especially in today's society. As a Muslim woman, she has a double distress, how like Muslim women are suffering because of their gender in Islamic society. And this is one of the distress, the other distress of non-Muslim, especially the Islamophobic. The non-Muslim always blame religion of Islam for the suffering of Muslim women. That sense, Muslim women have another distress that their religion is being attacked. So she says Muslim women have a double distress. We suffer because of our gender. That is also accused that we suffer because of our religion. But Shalina's take on being attacked is actually being slammed or being slandered on a regular basis in the media, in the books, in here and there. So she says we actually the suffering of Muslim women is actually a double distress. Another excerpt that can be quoted from her book is that she said that she was told repeatedly by those bosom aunties, the elders and aunties, that she was too confident and clever, and that boys don't like if a Muslim woman is confident. It's like being smart is wrong and is not bringing the image of Islamic women. And her aunties also mentioned that men do not want to marry them. If we women are too serious about getting married, we will have to hide it. Even we have some knowledge, scholarship, or we are actually a genius, but we need to keep it a secret from the men. According to her aunties, showing a glimpse is fine, but it is very important that the boys don't think we are too clever, because they also have gone so far that to say that we should not take a PhD or master because nobody will want to marry us. Then the only option that we're gonna have to ourselves as women is blame nobody who doesn't want a girl, is to educate her, and they advise her that she will be old and left on shelf better to get married first, so that she could take care of her husband, and then only after that she can do anything as she please. So this is a very hard experience of her undergoing through the Southeast Asian culture and on their misconception on Muslim women. This book is actually a memoir that she's talking about her life experiences. She says that this is how in Muslim societies, in South Asian Muslim societies, women who are Muslim were discouraged to receive higher education, to receive further education, or to be smarter, because this is the cultural notion in the South Asian society. Nobody wants an educated Muslim woman, but Shalina actually wants to separate Islam from culture. So this is why she was fighting to be looking at this from a neutral point of view. She doesn't want to put Islam, the religion, and the culture on the same page. In her book, she was also mentioned her experience when she was talking to a potential groom. The groom was feeling discomfort because she was too smart, she was clever. He was feeling unease, and he was saying that you must be very intelligent. That was some reason for discomfort for him. So this is how she fights again, that she wanted to separate Islam from culture and culture from Islam. Okay, at the end of this presentation, I like to highlight the words that Shalina suggested were always associated with women, which are oppressed, repressed, subjugated, backwards, violent, extremist, ignorant,
even though culture of female
hateful,
education is discouraged, but this is not what Islam says.
Radical,
in the books also is the question of marriage and how Muslim society's marriage is,
women
how
Muslim
we should deal with
colors,
marriage, and how it
Shalina's
should be
story
handled,
is
and how it is not always Islamic the way marriage is handled in Muslim societies, especially in Southeast Asian Muslim community.
Both men and
She says
women,
that
and of human beings
Islamic
of other faith and no faith at
not
all,
very considered because it is kind of prohibited for a woman to initiate a marriage proposal. A woman cannot initiate a marriage proposal
with this
because
memoir,
then
we will get a glimpse into the matchmaking
look
scene
that
in
the woman
British
is
Islam,
desperate.
which is very different from
And
the
after
usual
that, she
Judeo-Christian
rebut
tradition, finding
this
a
culture
partner in British
with the
Muslim
culture
community.
notion of
According to this
our
book,
Prophet Muhammad
it involves all sorts
may
of
peace be upon
people,
him,
from professional matchmakers
whose
whose
wife,
job is to
Siti Khadijah,
quickly
who
marry
was
men and
herself
women,
a successful
to family
businesswoman,
and friends,
had taken the initiative in
who
sending a
vet
marriage
any
proposal to
prospective
Muhammad.
suitor by
Despite
inviting him
these,
into their
we
homes
felt through the
for
force of
conversation
culture
and a
standard
hearty
that
round
it
of
would be too
tasty
shameful to call them
samosas.
so that.
So
this
as
is
Jan
how
Muhammad
Shalina
puts it,
joined
the search
Muhammad
for the
actually is
perfect may
refuting some
deeply and
cultural
truly
practices
involves
which
an
are
entire
prevalent
society.
in South Asian society, but which have no legitimacy in the normative teachings of Islam.